I've spent my life chasing approval, pushing myself harder than anyone else, until the day I couldn't anymore. Now, I'm at a crossroads. Do I return to the competition I've always known, or do I dare to choose something unknown? In the quiet of the barn, I'm learning that maybe the most difficult race is the one I run with myself. Before we dive into this powerful story, let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you find it compelling, don't forget to hit subscribe. The sound of hooves pounding the dirt track fills my ears, but it doesn't quite drown out the buzzing in my head. The weight of expectation presses down on me, heavy and relentless. It's not just the race today. It's everything. My entire career, my entire life. Every time I step into the starting gate, every time I mount Vortex, I can feel the eyes of the world on me, waiting for me to fail. They're just waiting. I can't let them win. I smooth down the sleek, black racing jacket that fits me like a second skin. The fabric feels cool, but inside I'm boiling. Sweat collects under my arms, and my throat tightens. The media loves to remind me how hard it is for a woman to succeed in a sport like this. How I have to fight for respect, fight for recognition, fight for everything. But I'm used to the fight. I always have been. Growing up, I was always the one who had to work harder, run faster, do more than anyone else. Being a woman in a sport dominated by men doesn't just mean being good. It means being the best. It means being perfect. And that's why I'm here, at the top of my game, racing Vortex, my horse who's carried me through it all. He's more than just a horse. He's my ticket. Clara, the stable hand calls out, snapping me from my thoughts. Your time's up. The race starts soon. I nod, gripping the reins tightly as I walk toward Vortex's stall. He stands there, a giant of muscle and grace, his dark eyes gleaming in the dim light of the barn. He's as ready as I am.
No, scratch that.
He's better than I am. Vortex doesn't know doubt. He doesn't know fear. Unlike me. I take a deep breath, closing my eyes for a moment. There's a memory here, buried deep, of my father, his voice urging me to push harder, go farther. I swallow the lump in my throat. There's no room for sentiment in racing. There's only room for winners. I saddle up, slipping into the rhythm of preparation. The familiar feel of the saddle beneath me, the grip of the reins in my hands, the sound of Vortex's breath in my ear, these things anchor me. Still, something inside me stirs, like an itch I can't scratch. Ready? One of the crew asks, his eyes searching mine. I give a tight nod, but I can't shake the feeling that something's off. I've been here 100 times, but this time it's different. There's a weight to it. More than just the race. More than just the fight to prove myself. As Vortex steps into the starting gates, I look out over the crowd. I see them. Those faces I've become so accustomed to. The photographers, the reporters, the spectators. They're all here to see me succeed or fail. They'll be watching every stride Vortex takes. Every turn. Every mistake. But today, I don't just want to win. I need to. And there's a voice in my head, loud and insistent. If I don't win today, I'll lose more than just the race. I'll lose myself. The gates open, and we're off. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, dirt, and adrenaline as we hurtle down the track. The wind slices past my face, pulling my hair back in a sharp sting. Vortex is moving like a force of nature, his hooves striking the ground with a rhythmic power that echoes through me. I grip the reins tighter, leaning forward into the gallop. But something isn't right. It's a small thing, barely noticeable, but I feel it. Vortex isn't running like he usually does. The way he pushes forward, the way he digs in, something feels off. His movements are just a fraction slower.
No, not now.
Not today. I push him harder, urging him forward with a soft nudge of my heels. His muscles ripple under me, but the response is sluggish. We round the first bend, and I can hear the crowd's roar rising in the distance. They're with us, cheering us on, but the sound feels muffled, distant, like I'm underwater. My heart pounds in my chest, but not from excitement. It's from fear. I push the thought away. There's no room for fear. Come on, Vortex, I mutter under my breath, my voice strained. You've got this. I feel his body hesitate beneath me, as though he's resisting. The track is long, and I've ridden it 100 times, but today it feels like it stretches on forever. The finish line looms ahead, but the more I push, the more I feel the hesitation in Vortex's steps. He's slowing down. He's losing speed. A cold sweat starts to bead on my forehead. The other riders are pulling ahead. I can see them, bright, fast, determined. They're cutting through the wind like it's nothing. And then there's me. There's us. I grit my teeth, willing him to catch up, to find that spark of fire that's always been there. Not like this, I whisper, my breath coming in sharp gasps. But it's no use. Vortex is no longer the horse he used to be. His once familiar rhythm is breaking down. He's not giving his all. I glance down at his legs, watching the strain in his movements. His muscles are shaking, and I feel the tension, the discomfort in every stride. He's injured. I can tell now, there's no mistaking it. His left rear leg is dragging behind, just a little, enough to make the difference. Panic surges through me, threatening to choke me. I try to pull back on the reins, but it's too late. The other horses are speeding past us. I'm losing this race. And I know what this means. The crowd's cheers turn into a blur of noise as I urge Vortex to keep going, knowing full well that no matter how hard I try, I won't be able to catch up. The finish line is so close, yet it feels like 1,000,000 miles away. And then, the thought hits me, I've failed. It's not just the race. It's everything. The pressure. The years of sacrifice. The constant fight to be better than everyone else. All of it is falling apart in this moment. I look down at Vortex's exhausted face, and a terrible clarity cuts through me. I've been so focused on proving myself that I didn't see what was happening to him. He's been carrying me through this whole journey, and I've been blind to the strain on his body, the toll this life has taken on him. I feel a pang of guilt, sharp and searing. As the race ends and the crowd erupts in cheers for someone else, I bring Vortex to a slow stop, the reality settling in like a weight on my chest. The pain in his leg, the fatigue in his eyes, it's a reminder that we've both been running on empty for far too long. The world feels like it's crumbling around me. The race is over, the cheers fading into a dull hum, and I'm still standing there, frozen in place, staring at Vortex. His chest heaves with every breath, sweat dripping from his coat, and I feel the sickening knot in my stomach twist tighter. He's hurt. I know it now. He's been hurting for longer than I care to admit. All the signs were there, but I ignored them. I was too focused on winning. Too focused on me. A few of the stable crew members approach cautiously, their faces a mix of concern and pity. I feel a flash of anger, but it's not directed at them. It's directed at myself. How could I not have noticed? How could I have let it get this far? Clara, one of the stable hands, says gently, "We need to get him looked at." I nod, my throat tight. The thought of leaving him here, to be treated by someone else, feels wrong, but I know they're right. He needs help. I need to face the reality of what I've done. The ride back to the stable is a blur. Vortex's limp is noticeable now, each step a painful reminder of the price we've both paid for this dream I've been chasing. As I walk beside him, I can't help but feel the weight of every misstep, every moment I've pushed him too hard. He's not just a horse. He's been my partner, my rock, and I've taken him for granted. Once we're in the stable, I find a quiet corner and lean against the wall, watching as the vet checks over Vortex. The sound of Vortex's hoarse breathing fills the room, and it makes my chest tighten all over again. His leg's sprained, but it's not too serious. The vet says, his voice a small comfort in the whirlwind of my thoughts. A few weeks of rest, maybe longer, depending on how he heals. I release a breath I didn't realize I was holding. It's not as bad as I feared, but the realization that I pushed him this far, is enough to send a shudder through me. Do you think he'll be ready for the next race? I hear myself ask before I can stop myself. The vet looks at me with a hard expression, like he's been through this 100 times before. I'd recommend you give him time to recover, Clara. He needs a break from all this. I nod, but a part of me can't accept it. A part of me wants to push, wants to make him better. I've trained him to be the best, and now I'm asking him to slow down. But even as the thought crosses my mind, I feel the weight of it, like a sharp pang in my chest. This is the reality now. It's not just about winning. It's about taking care of what's truly important. You've done good by him, Clara, the vet continues, his voice softening. But sometimes, the best way to win is to give them what they need, not what you want. The words hit harder than any of the media's criticism, harder than the loss of the race itself. Because deep down, I know he's right. I've been so consumed with proving myself that I forgot the most important thing, the partnership I have with Vortex. As I watch him settle down in his stall, I run a hand over his neck, whispering soft words of apology. I don't know if he can understand me, but I know I need to say it. I'm sorry, boy. I'll make it right. I've spent so long chasing success, so long trying to prove my worth. But maybe this is the moment I need to stop.
To breathe.
To understand that success doesn't come at the cost of everything else. Not at the cost of Vortex. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to change my definition of winning. The stable is quiet now, the usual bustle of horses, riders, and trainers replaced by an odd, still silence. I stand at the entrance, watching Vortex as he chews lazily on his hay, his posture finally relaxed after a long day of tending to his injury. But I can't shake the weight of guilt that lingers in my chest. I was so obsessed with the idea of winning. The moment I found out about the race, all I could think about was proving that we were the best, that we were the ones to beat. But now, the empty stares from the other riders, the quiet whispers when they think I'm not looking, those are nothing compared to the self-inflicted guilt gnawing away at me. Clara? I turn to see Anna, the stable manager, walking toward me. She's been with me since the beginning, since the very first time I saddled up Vortex and dreamed of the future ahead of us. But her expression now is cautious, like she knows something I don't. How's he doing? She asks, her eyes flicking to Vortex. I look at my horse again, the one I've spent countless hours training, the one I've pushed past his limits and now have to ask to slow down. Better, but I sigh, dragging a hand through my hair. I think he needs more than just physical rest. He needs time to breathe, to be. Anna nods. You're starting to see it, huh? I bite my lip, reluctant to admit it, but the truth is clear now. The fog is lifting. I've been so caught up in the next race, the next win, that I didn't see what was right in front of me. Vortex has been running on empty for months. All I've been doing is dragging him along, expecting him to be something he's not. Clara, Anna says softly, it's easy to get caught up in the rush of things. Everyone does. But horses like Vortex, they're not machines. He needs care. He needs you to listen. To give him time. Her words sting, but they also comfort me. They're the truth I've needed to hear. I glance back at Vortex, who is now looking at me with those large, patient eyes. I think I've been treating him like a tool, not a partner. I've been so focused on my goals that I didn't even think about what he needs. What we need. Anna's face softens. It's hard to step back, especially when you've spent so long pushing forward. But sometimes, the best thing you can do is just stop and breathe. I nod. Yeah, I think it's time we both took a break. Time to really heal, not just physically but mentally too. Anna's smile is gentle, understanding. That's the right choice, Clara. I swallow the lump in my throat, the weight of the decision finally settling on my shoulders. It's hard to admit it, but I know it's the right one. I've been running in circles for too long, looking for something outside myself to define my worth. But Vortex has shown me the truth. I need to focus on the now, on us. I take a deep breath and turn to Anna. You're right. No more races. Not until we're both ready. Anna looks like she wants to say more, but she just gives me a knowing smile.
Good.
Let me know if you need help with anything. I'm here.
Thanks, Anna.
I watch her walk back toward the stable, but my mind is still spinning. I need to focus on Vortex, on giving him what he deserves. And in return, maybe I'll find what I've been searching for all along. Peace. The sun is barely creeping over the horizon when I step into the stable the next morning. The air is cool, and there's a certain quiet serenity that feels different from the frenetic energy of the previous days. Vortex is already awake, his head turned towards me as I approach. He's calm, almost as if he knows I've made the decision to slow things down for both of us. I run my hand down his neck, feeling the familiar warmth beneath his coat. It's moments like this that remind me why I started this journey with him in the first place. But it also stirs something else, a gnawing sense of regret. I've been so driven by the need to prove myself, to show my family, my trainers, even the media that I could succeed, that I could be the one. But now I see it clearly. Every moment spent pushing Vortex, every race, every training session was a reflection of my own insecurity. I thought that winning would fill the void I'd felt for so long. But all it ever did was create more emptiness. I let out a heavy sigh and lean against the stall. What have we really been chasing, huh? Vortex shifts and nudges his nose against my arm, as if offering his comfort. His presence is grounding, reminding me that none of this, none of the trophies, the accolades, the applause, matters if we don't have each other. I run my fingers through my hair, the weight of my thoughts beginning to feel too heavy. It's like there's this part of me that's been buried deep down, buried under all the pressure, the expectations, and the dreams of being someone I'm not. And for the first time, I'm afraid to look at it. I don't know who I am without the race, without the pursuit of something greater than myself. The soft sound of hooves approaching pulls me from my reverie. I glance over to see my mom standing at the entrance of the stable. She's dressed in the familiar breeches and boots, her posture straight as always, but there's a softness in her eyes today. "Morning, Clara," she greets me, her voice gentle. I nod, not quite sure what to say. It's been a few weeks since we last spoke about the race, and the distance between us has only grown wider. "Is he doing okay?" she asks, her gaze flicking to Vortex. "He's healing," I reply, my voice tight. "But I'm not sure that's the only thing we need." She steps closer, a slight frown on her face. "What do you mean?" I hesitate, unsure if I'm ready to open up. But in this moment, I know I have to. There's no going back. If I want to move forward, if Vortex and I want to heal, I have to confront everything. "I've been pushing him too hard," I say, the words sounding foreign on my tongue. I was so focused on winning, on proving something, that I didn't even see what was right in front of me. What we've been doing. It hasn't been about him. It's been about me. Her expression softens, and I notice a flicker of understanding in her eyes. She's silent for a long moment before speaking again. "Clara, you've always been driven. I've always admired that about you. But sometimes, it's easy to get lost in the race, to forget that you're not alone. That Vortex isn't just a tool to help you win." I swallow hard, her words hitting me with unexpected force. "I've hurt him," I whisper, the realization finally crashing down. I've been so caught up in what I want that I've been blind to what he needs. My mom reaches out and places a hand on my shoulder, her touch warm. "You're not the first to make this mistake, sweetheart.
And you won't be the last.
But what matters now is what you do next." I look at her, my heart heavy. "I don't know if I can fix this." She smiles softly, a trace of pride in her gaze. "You're already doing it. You're seeing him. You're listening to him. That's all that matters." Her words sink in, filling me with a mix of relief and uncertainty. I've spent so much time looking for validation, for an answer outside of myself. But the truth has been with me all along. I've been looking at everything through the wrong lens. I reach over to give Vortex one last pat, feeling the weight of the decision to rest him. It's not the easy choice. It's the right one. And maybe, just maybe, I'll start to understand that my worth isn't measured by what I can win, but by what I can give. The next few days pass in a haze of quiet reflection. I've taken the time to focus on Vortex, not as a means to an end, but as the partner he truly is. The barn smells of fresh hay and the earthy scent of horses, and I spend hours grooming him, talking to him as if he could understand every word. Maybe he can. In some ways, he's always known me better than I've known myself. We've stopped all training for now, just letting him move at his own pace. There's no rush. No deadlines to meet. The world outside of the stable can wait. For once, I allow myself to breathe with him, as if we're in sync. But as the days go on, I can't shake the question that keeps swirling in my mind. What's next for us? I sit on the fence, watching Vortex graze in the field, and wonder what I'm supposed to do now. I've always had the next race, the next event, lined up, but now that it's all paused, the future feels uncertain, like a fog I can't see through. You're thinking too hard again. The familiar voice cuts through my thoughts, and I glance over to see Anna walking toward me, her hands tucked in the pockets of her jacket. She's wearing that amused expression she always gets when she knows I'm overthinking something. I can't help it, I admit with a sigh. Everything's so
Still.
and I'm not used to it. I don't know what to do next. Anna leans against the fence beside me and glances at Vortex. It's not always about what you do next, Clara. Sometimes it's about just being here, being present. I look at her, unsure. But how do I know when it's enough? Anna laughs softly. When you stop questioning it. When you stop trying to fill the silence with the noise of everything you're supposed to be doing. I chew on that for a moment, letting her words sink in. It's true, I've always been busy with the next competition, the next goal, the next hurdle to jump. But this stillness, this space, is unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. Do you ever feel like you've lost yourself in everything you're doing? I ask quietly, unable to keep the vulnerability from slipping out. Anna looks at me, her gaze thoughtful. I think we all do at some point. It's easy to get lost in the things we think we should be. But that's not who you are, Clara. You're more than the next race. More than the next trophy. Her words hit me in a place I hadn't realized was aching. I've spent so much time chasing approval from others, I've forgotten to approve of myself. To just be who I am, regardless of what anyone else thinks. I think I've forgotten how to be just Clara, I whisper, almost to myself. I've been so focused on who I'm supposed to be that I forgot who I really am. Anna's smile is soft, understanding. You're right here. You're not lost. You just need to listen. And trust. I turn my gaze back to Vortex, who's now grazing contentedly in the field, his head low to the ground. There's something so simple, so peaceful about him. He doesn't need to be anything but himself, and that's enough. And maybe, just maybe, it's time I learned to be enough too. It's been a few weeks since I made the decision to slow down, to truly listen to Vortex and to myself. The steady rhythm of the barn, the quiet of the early mornings, and the gentle trust between me and my horse have become my new reality. But even in the stillness, I can't shake the shadow of the past. It's like a storm cloud that follows me, always threatening to burst. Today, my mother's visit has brought it all back. The clinking of her car keys echoes in the quiet barn as I watch her approach. There's a new tightness in my chest, something I haven't felt in days, an old fear. My mother is here to check on Vortex, of course, but I know her well enough to recognize that she's also here to check on me. Her eyes scan the stable as she steps inside, and I can already see the familiar assessment in her gaze. She's sizing everything up, just like she always does. It's not that I don't love her. I do. But when she looks at me, it feels like she's seeing someone I don't recognize anymore. Someone who's so focused on winning that she's forgotten what it means to be truly present. How's he doing? She asks, her voice more clinical than caring. It's the way she's always spoken about horses, as if they were numbers on a chart, things to be fixed, to be polished. I glance at Vortex, who is standing quietly in his stall, looking as serene as ever. The anxiety of the past few weeks has loosened its grip on him, and I feel a sense of calm when I see him. He's healing, I reply softly.
But
I'm not sure where to go from here. I need to figure out what comes next. My mother pauses, her lips pressed into a thin line. Next? Clara, you've been on a break long enough. You can't waste time. The world doesn't stop turning, and neither do you. You're falling behind, and that's not an option for you. I feel the weight of her words land in my chest, heavy and suffocating. It's the same thing I've been hearing from her my entire life. The pressure, the constant push to be the best, to be perfect. It's suffocating, and for the first time in a long while, I feel like I can't breathe. I'm not falling behind, Mom, I say, the words coming out sharper than I intend. I just don't know if that's what I want anymore. Her eyes narrow, the tension building in the space between us. What do you mean you don't know if that's what you want? This is what we've been working for, what you've worked for. This is your future. You don't have the luxury of not knowing anymore. I feel a flicker of anger flare inside me. For years, I've pushed myself to be someone I wasn't. I've played by the rules she set out for me, the rules I thought would bring me approval. But now, all I feel is a growing chasm between who I am and who she wants me to be. Maybe I don't want that future, Mom, I say, my voice trembling but firm. Maybe I just want to find my own path. I can't keep running this race. There's a long silence, the weight of my words hanging in the air like a storm about to break. My mother's face falls, and for a moment, I wonder if she's heard me, really heard me for the first time. But then her expression hardens, the familiar mask sliding back into place. You're making a mistake, Clara, she says, her voice colder now. You'll regret this. I don't answer. I can't. Her words echo in my mind, but something inside me refuses to bend. I refuse to let fear and doubt dictate my choices anymore. As she turns and walks away, I realize that this might be the last time we'll see eye to eye on this. But for the first time, I don't feel the crushing weight of disappointment that I used to feel whenever I failed to meet her expectations. Instead, there's a flicker of freedom, a tiny spark that tells me that maybe, just maybe, I'm finally on the right path. The house feels colder the moment my mother leaves. Her departure lingers in the air, a tension that I can't shake. I stand by the window, watching her car disappear down the long gravel drive, her words still ringing in my ears. You'll regret this. I used to live for those words, used to let them shape every decision I made. But now, they feel like an anchor, dragging me back to a version of myself I don't recognize anymore. It's late in the afternoon, the fading light filtering through the trees outside, casting long shadows over the kitchen table. The sun's descent seems to echo the weight in my chest. I sit there for a while, alone with my thoughts. The sound of the clock ticking is the only noise that fills the space. Then, a knock at the door. I rise slowly, unsure of who it could be. When I open it, I find Anna standing there, her face serious but warm. I thought you might need some company, she says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. How'd it go? I sigh, closing the door behind her. She wants me to get back in the game. She thinks I'm wasting time here. Anna nods. She doesn't say anything at first, just sets down a bag of takeout on the counter. You want to talk about it? I shrug, sinking into one of the chairs at the table. I don't know what there is to say. She doesn't get it. She doesn't understand why I can't just keep pushing myself like I always have. Anna pulls out 2 cups of coffee and places one in front of me. She sits down across from me, her eyes soft but steady. That's because she doesn't know who you are now, Clara. She only knows the person you used to be. I take a slow sip of the coffee, the warmth of it grounding me. I don't even know who I am now. She watches me, her expression not judgmental, just patient. You're still you, Clara.
Just.
Maybe a little more free. And it's scary, right? I nod, feeling the familiar weight of uncertainty pressing against my ribs. Terrifying. I don't know how to let go of what I've always known, even if it feels like it's suffocating me. Anna leans back in her chair, her eyes thoughtful. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself. It's like the barn. You can't force a horse to trust you. You have to wait and give it space. You've been so busy chasing approval, you haven't given yourself the space to breathe. I swallow the lump in my throat, her words sinking deeper than I expect. The barn, the horses, everything has always been about control, about pushing harder, faster, farther. But what if I've been chasing the wrong things all along? What if the peace I crave isn't something I can achieve by running in circles? I just want to feel. Okay? I admit, the vulnerability in my voice unexpected. I just want to feel like I'm enough. Without the medals. Without the trophies. Anna smiles gently.
You are. You always have been.
You just need to believe it. We sit there in silence for a while, the soft clink of our coffee cups the only sound in the room. Outside, the evening sky grows darker, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can breathe again. Maybe Anna's right. Maybe this is the space I need to find my way back to myself. I glance out the window, the fading light giving way to night, and for the first time, I let myself feel hopeful. I may not have all the answers yet, but I don't need to. Right now, I'm enough.